Puneet, we started. We
All
are
right.
live.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to one of the most crucial webinar. So, on the behalf of GMAT Club and Math Revolution, I welcome everyone today and today's webinar of us. The best part of this webinar is we'll be talking about something which is very important. These days, like Math Revolution has started the consultation services, and therein where I've been talking to a lot of students across the globe. And there has been question that what should be a comprehensive approach if we are from a non-math background. Is it very difficult to crack the GMAT exam, especially the GMAT Quant? What ideology and pedagogy we should follow? And from there, it came to our mind that we should definitely come up with a webinar that in where we could talk to a lot of students and aspirants and send the message across. So this is one of the key method therein where we have found this way. So welcome everyone who are attending right now, and I also welcome to the people who haven't joined yet, but they would be definitely looking at this particular webinar for today. So as I said, on the chat window, I'm there with you. If you have any questions, you can definitely send across, and I would definitely love and try my best to answer questions for everyone. And in the chat, you will get the link. So if you feel like talking to me directly on the one-on-one call, you could directly have those links from the website, which is www.mathrevolution.com. You can have the consultation, plus the website is also available on the link is also available on GMAT Club, so you could definitely have the look over it. So let's proceed with the webinar, which says beginner to pro. So be it a non-math skill or math skill, GMAT never highlights this particular fact that we have to uh, know the math to in order to crack the GMAT. So it's open for everyone, and this is the best part of it. GMAT math is not at all difficult. GMAT math is all about the logics. So in that particular way, we need to be very affluent with it. When I say logic, you need to be very much good into deriving the logics for it. And today I'll be talking about how should you prepare, what all is required, and this particular video would be uploaded, so it would be always there with you to guide. So going ahead with this is a very basic one, which every one of us know. The GMAT, it's like, over 6,500 graduate management programs, which are awarding MBA, PhD, master's degree, needs GMAT. And it's one of the most important factors for admission into top-notch universities to pursue the higher studies or higher programs. When we talk about GMAT, we need to first understand the sections. So it's not about the GMAT indeed. I'll say, as per my experience, whatever you wish to pursue in your life, you should know what is the pattern of it. So be it a GMAT, be it anything, you should have been very acquainted with the sections. So if we see right now on the screen, it says the sections of the GMAT. On the left, we see the sections. In this middle column, we have number of questions, and the right-hand column, we have the amount of time. So AWA, which is analytical writing assessment, there's only one question set, and it gives. I mean, like you can complete those into 30 minutes. IR, which is the integrated reasoning, this is separately rated, and there will be 12 number of questions for 30 minutes to be solved. Then you get an optional break for 8 minutes. Yes, it sounds optional, but I always suggest that you should take it. Once you've refreshed, then you meet quant, which is a math, 31 questions for 62 minutes. So that's ideally 2 minutes a question each. Then you have an optional break, and then we go for the verbal, which is 36 minutes, 36 questions for 65 minutes. All in total, we have 187 minutes, which is 3 hours time. Going ahead with this, you should always write AW and IR sections together, but you can write the math and verbal sections separately. So yes, that is one thing. Now let's talk about GMAT math that we have to discuss today. It's all about logic, as I said at the start of the webinar today. So, majorly, whatever we study during our high schools and 11th grade math, which includes trigonometry, geometry, algebra, and statistics, this is a major part of GMAT math questions or quants, I would say. So, this is how they go across, this is how they talk, and this is wherein, you know, the questions are based upon. So, yes, the 11th grade high school level math, including geometry, algebra, and statistics. And now we already have the three key topics that we need to prepare for GMAT math, which is geometry, algebra, and statistics. But it's not only good to know that what is included, we should always know about what is not there in the GMAT math so that we don't waste much of our time in studying and learning those. There's nothing called a trigo or logarithm or calculus. Calculus is very scary, yes, but again, it's good that it's not there in GMAT. So there's no sine, cos, or cosine angles or, tangent angle that appears into the exam. There's nothing called a matrix or determinants that happens to be there in the GMAT quant, so we are very much safe into it. There's nothing called an imaginary number concept or a complex number that you would see. You'll not see anywhere like square root of -1, which is I. That is an iota. So this is how we solve a complex number. You'll not see any complicated limits. So range is a different case, but you'll not see anything like x to the power n minus a to the power n over x minus a and limit x is tending to infinity. So how does that function goes on? No. No differentiation, there is nothing called integral calculus, no Gauss theorem, and no vector functions. So anything that is a typical math and a very difficult math is not there in GMAT. So be happy and bring a smile onto your face that we would be dealing with something logical and easy math. Yes, practice will make us perfect in this. So let's go ahead with this. So it's a computerized adaptive test. And when we talk about CAT, it is applicable to both of the sections, which are verbal and math. And how do they select the question? They have a test bank and which always gets updated by GMAT, and they randomly select the questions on the screen that appears during the exam, and they provide students with question based on their difficulty level. So we have, if you go, whatever practice that we do right now, we have a various difficulty level of 650, 750, 730. More precisely in the quant, it has like 41 to 45, then 45 above, then 49, 50, 51 difficulty levels. So the questions are based on the difficulty levels. The first question is always a medium level question, and if you correct that, then progressively you will have the more difficult questions. But unfortunately, if it happens to be wrong, which should not happen, I repeat, which should not happen, if that happens to be wrong, then progressively there could be an easier question, but this is not always. So don't, first of all, I would always say that starting 10 to 12 questions are pretty important. So you should not have any affordability to make any errors into those particular questions. Going ahead with this, students cannot skip questions and they cannot go back to the previously answered questions. So it's a one-time combat, it's a one-time fight. The question is there on the screen, do it, calculate it, accurately mark it, go ahead for the next question. There's nothing called returning back, so there's no U-turn to it. It's adaptive to each students. Yeah, so anytime, no matter how many aspirants are there in the test room, it's always a CAT exam, but the type of questions always remains the same. They are just jumbled up. When you're finishing the exam, now this is one of the most important point, the penalties for unanswered questions. So you need to be make sure that you don't skip a question, you don't leave any particular question being unanswered. Guess answers if you're running out of time, but don't try to just skip the question, please. And guessing answer up to 5 questions can help your overall score. So, I mean, you would be definitely solving, but these days when I'm talking to a lot of students, they often have this one major challenge that they are just left out with 10 minutes maybe, and they still have 10 more questions to solve. So today's webinar would not only highlight that what should be our approach to, demystify math, but again, what all approaches that one must learn so that they can save time and be more accurate. So I'll be definitely talking about those as well in the webinar. I would also request all the attendees to keep ready their notebook or a notepad and a pen, and also the mobile phones, because there are a couple of screens that I would be asking you to take the screenshot or take the picture, and you can keep those with yourself. Though the video would be uploaded, but again, this is very much live right now, so I would request and recommend that if without any mess, if you could just go ahead and have the screenshots. And if you have anything to ask me, please just drop me a, we are all are connected on the live chat, so you can definitely post your questions. So overcoming the cat, I would always say set a 4 minutes of deadline for unsolved questions. So I mean, like a 4 minute deadline for unsolved questions. So this is wherein we start our practice. Whenever you are in a practice mode, so I'll be talking much about this, that it's all about the practice, it's all about the way you would prepare yourself to combat GMAT. It's all together and online, so I don't recommend you to have a physical book and just go with in a different direction of learning and pedagogy. So your pedagogy and your approach has to be as similar as what the GMAT asks for. Going ahead with this, leave enough time for difficult questions. Now, one question that comes to my mind here is, how do you define that, a particular question is difficult or not? So for me, if someone asks me, hey Puneet, how would you say that this is a difficult question, or that is an easy question? So for me, I'll always say that, any question that you're not able to solve accurately within the time limit is difficult. Anything that you're able to solve is easy. Now, why do I say that? Just because the fact is, in the GMAT, you will never ever have a column therein where it says it's a 41 level questions, or it's a 51 level question, or it's a 35 level question. No. So you may end up making error also any time in the silly errors, right? So in that particular scenario, the best part is just for be focused always on the question that is there on the screen. Never ever put your mindset whether it's a difficult question, whether it's an easy question. And during your practice mode, when you're learning the concept, if you're getting any particular question wrong, so suppose if you have given a mock test and your score is 650, or out of which your quant is 42. Now, don't assume that whatever wrongs you have into your math part were the difficult questions, or were the hardest level questions, or maybe the 51 level questions. No, no one can guarantee it that they were the hardest level of questions and you were not able to solve. Secondly, listen to this point very clearly, because this is something I'm guiding students these days almost on every single call that I talk to them. We often have this tendency to check and recheck our solutions when a question gets wrong, but we never check our solution when it's correct. We never try to see how do how does other expert have solved the same sort of questions. And therein where we always tend to be in our comfort zone, following the same types of conventional approach, which at the test day cause a harm to us. So if you are very well prepared with your mindset that you're ready to learn the new approaches, because you need to beat the time, always look forward to some other approaches or better approaches or time saving approaches to solve the question. But this is during your practice, and I'll definitely come up to that how should we go ahead with this. Guess the answer and move on to the next question after 4 minutes. So if you have already crossed your 4 minutes of time, then the only thing which is left out is guessing the answer. Now, how difficult or easy it could be to guess the answer, There has to be something which can help you in selecting the possible and the likely answer. And Math Revolution has got that approach, the world's first approach, in which you can select the most likely answer to the question if you don't have much time left, and still it will be accurate. So your question is also safe, and you have not wasted much of the time. That is something I'll talk in the coming, slides for a while. Yes, I know that the exam is completely online, and yes, you can still use the rough sheet definitely. So that's not a problem at all, right? Okay, Ishesh has a question that approximately how many wrong questions can one afford for a 700 score? Ishesh, I will just tweak it this question rather than, because see, when we talk more negative, our mind always gets us a negative reflexes. So rather than, asking anyone that how many wrongs should I do, change your question and ask yourself and anyone in the future, how many rights are required to get me a 700 score? Because if I say that in quant and verbal, if you can make out 80% correct to make your 700 score, Ishesh, anything above 80 percentile would be a plus point. But if I ask you, Ishesh, or let's talk in general about everyone. If I say you cannot make error into more than 4 questions, no, it's not allowed. If you happen to make an error in 5 or 6 questions, you're out of race. I would say that will give you more pressure on your mind, and that is wrong. So you just focus on I have to be accurate rather than how many I should afford to be wrong. Now, let's go on to the advice on how to guess the possible questions. So, DS, something which I've already introduced. Remember that name variable approach. It plays a significant role in the life of GMAT aspirant. How, why? That is something we'll find out in some webinars as well, and slides also. So pick the most likely answer based on the analysis of the original condition. The original condition here actually means the original question stem. And I'll definitely talk about this particular word here, specifically the original condition, how does it goes. And the second one is PS question. So choose just one letter from A, B, C, D, E. Now see, if you have got 5 PS questions and you have just got 1 minute, I'll say don't draw a jigsaw puzzle into your mind. Either choose A for all the questions, either choose B or C or D or E. Don't try giving a hint like A or C or D or E. No. So if there is happens to be 5 questions and if you choose the same letters, tentatively there could be 2 or 3 correct out of it. See, I don't say that there will be, there could be. So always make sure and you have the proper words. All right. Now let's talk about the strategies to attain a high score on PS and DS question. The first principle of being slow. We can so if I sow a seed today, by all my means, I cannot expect it to be a plant tomorrow morning. If I'm learning a language, if I'm learning math, if I'm learning English, if I'm learning French, or if I'm learning lawn tennis, maybe if I'm learning anything in this world, just looking at it into and just getting out of my bed tomorrow morning will not make me an efficient or a pro. It requires practice. And when you practice, you need to be very slow. If you start running during a practice, you may end up missing on most crucial and important concept. So during the practice, during the learning, students should always be slow. If you slowly solve the questions during your preparation, you would have a upper edge on going through every single steps, and that will build your more confidence. So suppose for the first week, tentatively, you're taking 15 minutes to understand a particular question and solve. The same sort of questions and the topic, it would take 10 minutes in the next week. Then it goes to 5. And this is how you actually slow down or you lower down the time taken to solve a particular question set. You cannot assume to have the question solution in the 1 minute or less than that during your preparation from the first day. Because GMAT definitely not going to ask you 2 plus 2 is what, and there are again 5 options to it. So we have to be very much logical. Second point is principle of detail. So if I'm a GMAT aspirant and if someone says that number properties are is one of the key question or is the number of is one of the key topic, and if I start just going through the superficial concepts of the number property, I am actually wasting my own time. And trust me, after 15 days of lot of practice questions, 15 days is more than enough. I'll say after 3 days of practice, I would not still able to score 50 percentile into it. So it doesn't matter how many questions do you practice. It's all matter how much practice you have done to solve those questions. So principle of detail says that do not skip any steps while learning the concept. Be it 2x equals to 6 and the next step is x equals to 3. Make sure that you have that step. Don't voice out that x equals to 3. Fine, I've got it. That 2x is equals to 6, so x would be 3. During the practice, you need to be very much detailed. Follow every single step, even if it is a very easy question for you. Follow every single step because this will actually build your concept once and you don't have to re-go and redo the concept. You can revise the concept always, but you don't have to redo the concept. Mark my words. I'm not asking to redo the concept. I'm asking you to revise the concept or enhance your concept. Secondly, if we talk about the principle of hand, so voicing out or mental calculations are good when you have been practicing or learning GMAT math over extensive period of maybe a month or more. But if it's a day when you're about to start, I'll not say or I'll not at all recommend you to just go with the mental calculation or your eyes have just seen the solution and that is it. Math cannot be learned just looking at the solution. When you look at the solution, you're just looking at what others have done. You still have not bring in that particular confidence in you that you can do it or not. And that is only possible when you do it by your own hand. So solve slow, be detailed, and solve on the paper. That will give you the major confidence. Once you start doing and practicing the questions, you need to have that particular map building and mapping. Now, see what happens exactly is if suppose my GMAT is in next 2 months, so that on test day they will not ask me to come in the morning to give the math section and then in the afternoon to go. I mean, like they cannot give me 3 hours of break time that you revise and then give you a verbal section. My category of the math question would not be like choose integers first, solve all the integers question, then choose geometry, then solve. No, it's a mixed questions at all of. So if there are the mixed questions, definitely your mind has that messages shifting the concept from statistics to maybe geometry, then all of a sudden from mean to standard deviation to prime number to factorials, ds to ps. So, you need to be very very good into recalling the concept. So I again repeat my sentence. Doesn't matter how many questions you have practiced. It all matters is what all you have done to practice. So you need to be dealing with the difficult problems, and you can only deal with the difficult or the hardest level of questions when you have this tendency to recall the concept quickly while solving the easy. There are students who always have these questions. We don't take much of the time to solve the question, but that particular first step doesn't click so quick, and therein where we lose the time. Why doesn't it click? Just because the fact is you may not have recalled or memorized it properly. And when I say memorize it, see, understand, guys, I'm not asking you to cram. No one can cram math. It's logic. You can only understand and apply it. It's pretty pragmatic. So understand, you need to memorize it in the sense you need to map up those particular solution. And this is only possible when you have tendency to go very slow during the practice question. All right, we have a question here. Any advice regarding creating a study plan for people who have been out of school for a while? Definitely. I would say, Deepan, everyone, I would say, even if you're out of a school or, if you're from a math background or a non-math background, you should always have a study guide that should give you, a upper hand for learning. Because if we are directionless, we may go to any direction in this world. But if I'm confined to go to one particular direction, then I have to be very much disciplined and oriented to it. All right, so memorize each step, and that is how principle of easy PS and DS questions. Let's talk about this. If you're losing confidence due to difficult problem, be happy and smile. Reason, that is a positivity that you take out of it. You can say, okay, this is a question that is difficult and I'm not able to solve this. So this is wherein I have a zone for learning. No one will come to you to tell that, you have to learn this. It's you who has to do. In short, we always make our parking lots and error logs. So if you get to make an error into any particular question, be happy because today you will be learning something new, and you should be more happier just because in the practice you have made that mistake. You still have a time to learn it, and so you cannot afford to have a mistake done into your real GMAT. So, always be positive to it. Even if you're making a mistake, I'll say pick an easy question, read the concept, solve it, get the accurate answer. That brings in a confidence that, I know it. And then tackle the difficult problems. So, you need to go very, very much approachable. I'll be talking about something very important in next 5 minutes, and I want you, every one of you, to be very much focused on this. And whenever I ask you to click, take the picture, please do take it. There are core theories of the variable approach and the IV approach. Let me tell you something about this beautiful two approaches. Variable approach, I've learned this variable approach over years, and I would say during these days, I can answer a particular question on based on DS in say less than 30 seconds. So in less than 30 seconds of time, I know what the answer would be. Less than 30 seconds of time, I know what the answer is. So if I don't have much time, I'll just mark the answer and I move to the next question. And for the easiest type of question, it gives me an answer in 10 seconds. Similarly, the IV approach works onto it. So, the core theories always lay down the stepping stone for the learning. And this is the only way to achieve the highest score. You cannot jump directly from 30 to 51. So, these are the 15 topics for the PS questions that we always talk about. The screen is there, the slide is there for 30 seconds. Please take a very clear picture of it. Though it is available on the website, it's www.mathrevolution.com. So you can definitely visit it. And I would recommend you to visit it because there are a lot of things that you will see first time in your life there. So these are the major 15 topics for the PS questions. So your PS would come always from here. So the time you take the picture, I'll just see the number of questions and I'll see. All right, let's go ahead with this. So today, everything I'll be talking about is how a non-math background can improve, how they should study. If you're Even if you are a math background student, how would you improve your score, and what all you should follow. And trust me, if you follow it, you're done. One of the most crucial point, I will request everyone's attention onto this particular slide right now, which says principle of common mistake type 3 and 4. Now, this is in detail. You can only learn this on the Math Revolution website, because this comes from our own approach, the world's first variable approach to solve the DS questions. But I'll just talk a brief about it. How does it actually work? And what is the outcome if you know this particular, approach? So when you apply the relationship between the key questions, the following slides have those listing of key questions. So when you know the proper balance between the key questions and the common mistake type, so there is a jargon that we use for it, which is CMT, common mistake type 3 and 4. You would never ever make a mistake in the DS question. I'll just give you an example to this. Listen to this thing very carefully. If my question is in the DS is based on integers, and it seems to me that my answer is C. Guys, I don't have a question right now. I'm not solving it. But as I know the variable approach, I'll be able to know the likely answer is C. I'll not mark it. My answer would be either A or B. It cannot be C, just because the fact it's a key question. So now there are couple of tips and techniques that one has to master along with the variable approach, so that they can have this conclusion. Now, when you learn these approaches, what happens is you don't fall a prey for combining both the condition and solve, or you don't get trapped at times when you are not at all required to check the conditions separately, but you did it, and then you found that they were not sufficient alone. Then you combined those, and then you found that those were sufficient. So the time you would be checking those A and B separately, I'll be the person who will just mark my answer as C, and I'll move to the next question, and I'll save my time. The time saved is the time earned, or the time saved is the marks earned in the GMAT. This is what I'll quote as. So it's a Math Revolution's unique approach. Detailed of it is pretty consolidated, given onto the website. You can directly log on there. It plays a most significant, I would say it's a critical role to achieve a score above 49. If you're trying to reach 49, it will definitely be there with you. And above 49, which is a more one of the real challenge, it's there with you. So you can directly have all the free resources available for yourself on the website, which is www.mathrevolution.com. Let's talk about a step-by-step study method. And now this is pretty important for everyone. And so far I've never used a word that, this is the slide only for a non-math background, this is slide for only a math background. No, because a person who knows math can still make an error, and person who is learning math and has never ever had a math background can achieve 51. So please be very much open to this fact. If you are from a non-math background, boost yourself. You are not doing any harm taking a GMAT and learning math. And if you're from a math background, don't be overexcited, because even imperfectness comes from perfectness, and vice versa. So always remember this fact. Let's focus on the step-by-step method. Solve the easy question first. So, whenever you learn the concept, there always has to see. Now, see, the kind of material, the book, the test which you have to see is the major question. Which book should I take? Which material should I, consult for? What would I say? I mean, suppose you have an occasion into your family or somewhere, and you have to buy apparels for yourself, and you have to dress up well. I mean, definitely, we all love to dress up well during our, when we attend a meeting, or when we are a part of something. Now, if we do so, we would definitely love to have a one stop place therein where we could have everything for us. And when we say that, your material search should end up at a place therein where you have the listed concept, proper consolidated lessons, questions to support those concepts, very well categorized in easy, medium, hard, and very hard level. Then the practice sessions. Along with that, there should be a question bank. To support everything in total, there should be a test or a mock test. This is Math Revolution website that caters. There are other resources as well. GMAT Club is one of the best resource you could always avail. The only thing which you have to look for yourself is I need the concept and then I need a question that can explain me the application of concept. That happens to be a genuine material. But if I'm solving a particular question, if I'm learning a particular concept, and if it is taking ideally more time, then it is a very long method or a conventional method. So I have to be definitely learn the quickest method. So the first step is solve the easy questions first, and this is only possible when you start learning slow. Then move on to the medium level questions. So once you start doing this, start talking about 30, 35 level questions, which are very basics. Then go to 35 to 40, then go to 40 to 45, then 45 to 49, and then at the end, 49, 50, and 51 level questions. How do I understand this 49, 50, and 51 level questions? For instance, the question would have a standard deviation, range, mean, and median into it. And it's a DS question with the unknown data series. So that's a hard level question. Now, again, understand whenever you study, you need to understand how well or till what extent that particular topic is stretched and to up to what difficulty GMAT will stretch a particular topic or a subtopic. If I say a subtopic, that means number property, you should be very well aware about that. What kind of questions does come into number properties? Like prime numbers, remainder theorems, unit digits, divisibility, factor theorems, many more. So the extension of prime number to a difficulty will be as different than the remainder theorem. So you need to be very well aware about it. And this is wherein you have to be very slow when you are learning or you're starting to learn. Always understand how the adaptiveness of computerized test work. You will slowly grow on your confidence, but you need to be very much focused about this. Secondly, let's talk about key questions. So this is one of the terms that I've used into my webinar today in previous slides. And now I'll be more talking about this. What are the principal key questions? And the key questions, they're difficult. Yes, they're difficult. But oh, so the first one is integers, a very important topic. Or I'll say not a topic, but a concept. So you need to be very, very good into this. Second one is statistics. When I say statistics, it starts from measures of central tendency till deviations or dispersion. Third one is absolute value. This is also one of the typical topic to understand. Of course, I was waiting for the same absolute values and inequality. So think about that we are not equated equals to zero. And then all of a sudden there happens to be a restricted and unrestricted inequality. And there is a mod. So that plays a very important role to understand. And then third one is probability. So the statistics is always extended till probability density functions, wherein we deal with normal distributions. So these are the major key questions. You can kindly take the picture of it if you wish to. You can make a note of it, or you could always check this onto our website. But this particular questions will make you score above 50 and 51. So if you're good with integers, statistics, absolute value, inequality, and probability, you are achieving 50-51. Let's talk about the most frequently appearing questions into the GMAT. And one aspirant should be very well aware about this, to be honest. So if I'm wearing a suit right now, I have to be very well, you know, line up with my shoe, with my socks color, with my handkerchief, with my tie color. My hair should be properly combed. I should look fresh and everything. So, every accessories does matter. So these are all things. It's not only about the study. It's not only about opening a book from morning 10 and keeping yourself drilling yourself for 5 hours continuously. No. You study for 1 hour, that is more than enough, but you should be more focused and you should have all this understanding. So most frequently appearing questions when we talk about are on based on integer, geometry, ratio, and statistics. You can take the picture of it. The first slide was majorly talking about the key questions which will help you to score 50-51. These are the frequently appearing questions with GMAT, which are integers, geometry, statistics, and ratio. If I say they constitutes about 50% of the exam, so everyone who's attending the webinar right now knows that what they have to cover. So if they have already started practicing, they know what is their next timeline to cover. One who is about to start, they have been exposed to the start point of preparation. Pick integers, and I'll talk about the study order definitely in the coming slides, so you don't have to worry about it. If you focus majorly on these four topics, to be honest, and when I say focus, I mean like you need to be learning from detailed studies to shortcuts, PS and DS both, which is problem solving and data sufficiency both type of questions, you can easily score over 45. Out of this, I would always rate the integers on the upper hand. They're the most important one. This is arrangement of the questions on the topics based according to the difficulty level. So now when I know that my functions questions are not the hard and the very hard, will not drill myself in learning the most hardest logics of function. Let me tell you, math has no end. Math has no end. And when it is applied with physics, it can reach to space. And it can even reach to other, galaxies where NASA and every other space research are going through. We are not here to be a scientist. So need to be very, very precise into our learning. If my number, fractions, and decimal doesn't get into hard and a very hard segment, I don't have to solve those questions. Doesn't matter if you get those right or wrong. It will not be there into your GMAT. So this particular slide plays a very important role, and you can always look this into the video. This is there very well drafted onto our website as well. Going ahead with this is one thing that you guys would be definitely looking forward to. What should be a study order by the name of the topics if you're about to start? So be it from the math background or a non-math background, doesn't harm if you follow the same order. So the first portion is the number, fractions, and decimal. So the easy and the medium level of number, fractions, and decimal. And now when you learn this concept, you have to make sure that you apply it on the questions. So you are solving and you're practicing the questions also. It's not just about learning. Post this, you can often have ratios, rate, proportions, and percentages. They are very much confusing, so they'll take time. Once you're done with this, there comes the equation. I'll go very slow on this particular slide so that, if someone is writing, they can make a note of it. If you wish to take the picture, just hold yourself Till the time I complete the slide, I'll give you a minute time to take the picture. Once the equations are done, then you move to geometry, the easy and the medium level. Once you're done with the geometry part, I'll we'll say go to the coordinate geometry. Once the coordinate geometry part is done, we start with the integers. So we started with number, fractions, and decimals on the easy and the medium level. So just keep yourself solving the questions up to level 40, 41, or 42, not more than that. Don't jump. Once you're done till then, move on to the next topic, then equations, then geometry, then coordinates, and then integers. Post integers, you'll be doing the number, fractions, and decimals hard level. Now, when you're about to learn this extended approaches or extended concept, and when you're about to combat the hardest level questions, maybe like 45 plus level questions for this particular topic, I would say or recommend always revise the old concept that you have learned for the same topic so that you can understand and you can relate the new hardest learned concept with your old concept. So therein where you make a parking lot or your concept diary. Post this, you have to work on ratios, rates, proportions, and percentage, the hard ones. Then integers, which are hard and very hard. Why very hard? Because integers would constitute major part of your GMAT questions. Then go on to exponents, counting methods and probability, one of the most crucial topic. Statistics is one of the very much wide topics, so it will take time. So learn, make a note of everything very carefully. Then comes the geometry hard, because geometry easy and medium was learned in the first phase. Then comes the coordinate geometry, the hard level. Then we talk about the functions, sets, and sequence, because they are up to just a medium level, so they can be done at the end. Inequality in an absolute value, because you would be very well aware about integers, the fractions, the exponents, the equalities, and inequality. So how do you put across, how do you solve the exponents, how do you square one of the sides, how do you take this cube root. You'll be everything would be known to you when you have already reached up to inequality in absolute value. So it will be easier for you to you know hand on with that particular topic. And then the 50-51 level advanced lessons, if you're not aware about what the 50-51 level advanced lessons are, how do they look like, uh, what is extra into it, you can definitely see those all onto mathrevolution.com. So yes, that before I click and move on to the next slide, you have a 30 seconds to please take a picture if you wish to. All right, moving ahead with this. Now, this is one of the most important, I'll say it's a weapon just to, score 50-51. Variable approach, DS. So, when we talk about a particular approach, it's not a 1 day story, it's not a just 2 day story. You have to be very well aligned with it. You need to continuous learn, apply, learn and apply to get a confidence into it. So this is slide would actually give you the understanding about how the variable approach is different from conventional approach. So there was this person called John whose salary was something, and out of his salary, 20% of the amount he actually spent on food. Now, out of the remaining amount which he had, he spent 30% on the transportation. What was his salary, or if such kind of questions are there. And if you start your solution, let the salary be X, or if the unknown salary was X, let me tell you, that's a conventional approach. and that will not work for you in GMAT. That can make you to solve a particular question and get to the answer if you have a whole day, and if it's not a time bounded. I don't mean that it will take a whole day to solve that particular question. No, not at all. What I mean from here is, if you have a whole day, that means if you are not time bounded and have no pressure of a particular question being wrong or a right, then you would be definitely able to solve that particular question. But GMAT is altogether a different game. So in that particular scenario, you need to take his original salary to be 100. Now, why 100? That's what an IV approach is. That we'll something discuss right now. So variable approach is all about deduction, inferences, and comprehension. So it is practical. Conventional is all about too much time consuming, and then it becomes inefficient at the end if you're missing a questions into your GMAT exam or test. And it's very hard to score above 45 because you will not be left out with the time. You have still the questions to solve, but you don't have a time, so it's very difficult for you to score 45 or above. To get a perfect score of 51, variable approach is the one that will support. What a variable approach is all about. So it saves your problem solving time. It saves your problem solving time. You don't have to solve the question. You get most likely answer based on your question stem. Once you have that affluency to analyze the original condition, and once you learn it, original condition C or E could often most likely be the answer. So when I know the answer, why will I solve it? I'll just mark it. It's as simple as I was solving a question from 3 months, and that is the same question came onto my screen. Will I solve it? No. So same goes with the variable approach. When I know how to find and when I know how to deduce the most likely answer, why will I solve the question? I'll just check my answer and I'll just mark it. So I'm saving my time. When I start saving my time, my confidence grows, and then my positivity and motivation comes into a picture, and I'm able to even solve the hardest question. It allows the students to save a lot of time. It solves the problem by the VA algorithm, that's the variable approach algorithm. It's more systematic, it's more effective. Talking about effectiveness and finding the correct answers, it deals, see, the name itself says the variable approach. So it deals with the number of variables that a particular question stem will have. And if there happens to be any equation, and then you match up how many number of variables are there, how many equations are required, where will we get this equation from? And once we get all those, it becomes easier for us. If you have a confidence while solving a DS questions, your confidence level would automatically grow in GMAT math if you have learned the variable approach to solve the DS questions. Efficiency in time management, this is something which I've already spoken when we were on the point number 1. If you could save your time, you can solve any questions in GMAT. Nothing remains into a difficult zone. So you're able to manage the time, and you'll be able to solve all 31 problems. And if you're able to solve all the 31 problems, 45 is a very small score or a number. Let me tell you, it would be easily 49 plus. It builds confidence for the verbal section because it's a pretty human mindset that if we get disturbed, if we get deflected from one point, we often make mistakes in another. So I wish no one has that particular day. So be very good with your math so that your verbal is supported at the same time. If we talk about the logic, so variable approach is all about logic plus the concept of counting the number of variables. It names itself says everything. It's counting the number of variables. So count the number of equation against the number of variable in a question. So it's all about two variables needs two equation, three variables need three equation, one variable will require one equation, and this is how we go with the variable approach. Let's talk about this. This is something very important. Information which is given into the question prompt is called as original condition. This is a basic theory of the variable approach, and we'll solve one of the question together onto the base of same. So actual question is called as your original condition. Your first statement is condition number one. Your second statement is your condition number two. Your first step is to modify and recheck. So therein where you see how many variables or the equations are available into my question stem. Now, you always modify your question because there are instances that when you modify, you always go ahead and check the conditions. Second step is check the number of variables in the equations in the original conditions. And the third one is match the number of variables with the number of equations. So there is a question on the screen right now, and I'll just go quick on this, that how do we actually go ahead and solve with the variable approach. So at a meeting yesterday, each of the n person, n is a variable, make a note of it, donated $100 to help seniors who live alone. And at another meeting held today, each of m persons donated $200 to help children without parents. There is another variable m. I have two variables in this particular question. What are the values of m and n? It is asking me the same thing, m and n. What are the values of m and n? For two variables, I'll require two equations to solve. If my two equations can only come when I combine both the statement, when I combine both the statement, my answer goes as C. My question is solved. I will move to the next question. That's it. This is the beauty of variable approach. Now I'll just show you the solution, which ultimately is not at all required, but to solve, because we won't solve this question though. But just to show you the solution, we have a two variable question. So original condition and condition one and condition two have got two variables and two equations, and the number of variables is equals to the number of equations equals to 2. If there are three steps, then modify and recheck the original conditions and the question. Find the values of m and n. So we need to find the values of m and n into it. N persons have donated $100. The total happens to be 100n. M person donates $200. The total amount happens to be $200 times m. As I said, there are two variables which are m and n in the original condition. So we need two equations. Now, when you need a two equations, then you need to just combine those two equations, and your answer would be C. So condition 1 and 2 together would give you answer as C. So if I quickly solve it, total amount donated yesterday is 40,000. My n is 100 and equals to 40,000. N equals to 400. Why am I going so fast on this? Is just to tell you that yes, you can solve this question by getting the value of m and n definitely, because the first condition is giving you the value of n. The second is all talking about m and n. So you can definitely substitute that value of n into the second condition, and you can have those particular as value of m and n. But the answer finally goes as C because both conditions are sufficient. And this is what I was actually talking about. That when you know that there are two variables and you need two equations, you don't have too much worry about. You can mark your answer as C and go ahead. So these are the approaches that you need to look forward to your learning, so that you have the good hand on practice and acquiring your score which you're looking. So there is a store C in the state X who is selling a product A. Let's talk about this. So this original retail price here has been discounted twice. So there was a price and now that is discounted twice. So suppose if the price is P, because we often take an initial letter of our of our word. So if there happens to be an original retail price P and it is discounted twice. So suppose there was X% of discount given and then there was Y% of discount given. So now I'm dealing with three variables here, P, X, and Y. Now when I'm dealing with three kind of variables here, P, X, and Y, but I just have two conditions, so they can give me two equations. But for three variables, I require three equations to solve. But I can only get two conditions or equations. So ultimately, my number of variables are not matching with my number of equations. So my answer goes as E. Now, when I know my answer is E, even if I have to check it, I'll just combine both the conditions and solve it. I would not look for A and B separately and waste my time in just making sure that they're insufficient. And when I get to know that they're insufficient, then I'll jump on combining both. So I have a original retail price as P here. Then I have a discount percentage of X%. Then I have a discount percentage of Y% here. I'll just choose E as most likely answer if I don't have a time. If I have a 30 seconds time, this question can be solved as 30 seconds also, because condition 1 and 2 together has to be combined, because I'm looking for my answer is E. So now when I combine both the equations, I get X equals to 20%, because that was the first discount given. And the second equation says that after the second discount, the final sold price was, the selling price was $180. So after on the price P, after 20% discount and then a Y% discount, you get $180 as its selling price. Your P and Y is still unknown, and you cannot solve it further because there's no information given to it. So if that happens, definitely it's insufficient or it's not sufficient. So my answer goes as E. This is what I said before even solving a question or letting you guys know how to solve this. So this is wherein you have to play a very important role. This is what you have to actually learn. And this has no relevancy to your math skills right now, or whether you're from a math background or non-math background. It easily works for all. So variable approach, it's more logical and it's based on the data, statistical data. What we see is something what we apply. It's been refined by almost solving 100,000 problems. It's not just a guess method. It's a very well consolidated, defined, invented after solving 100,000 or more problems. Once you are used to the particular concept, then it would be very, very effective for you. So you need to be very, very patient while learning this particular approaches. And you can apply these approaches to all the problems which are there in OGs, the official guide, so that you can solve the questions. So you can take the questions from anywhere, but you apply the variable approach so that you get it through. Go all over the parts and videos on the variable approach. Majorly, those are the lessons are taught, the tips are taught on the lesson C, D, E, but on the various topic, how does it get applied is from A to Z. A and B is the introductory part. This is all available on our lesson tab, which is there on the mathrevolution.com. So this is all which you could see there. And all the core theory, the videos, the questions are very well explained. So they are recommended to watch for every GMAT aspirant, especially for the non-math background, because you guys can easily catch it and you can definitely have those learning for all the concepts which are required. It is applied to DS questions which are developed by other test prep companies. So every question that you have right now by Kaplan, Manhattan, EGMAT, or anywhere. So you can pick questions from anywhere. It is applicable to all sort of questions. Let's talk about the IV approach. So I was talking about two approaches at the start. The first one was PS. The first one was DS. That was all about the variable approach. The second one was PS, which is an IV approach. So again, if you go with the conventional approach, the OG explanation, to be very much honest, it's too much long and time consuming. So you need to shift your approach towards the IV. Conventional approach guide explain the question and then they convert the questions into variables, then setting up equations, then calculations, and then getting the answers. So there are the 5 steps which are involved. And let me tell you, if you learn this 5 step, there's no harm in learning. But again, if you get used to this 5 steps, you would never ever have that zone of solving a question quick, because you will lack confidence in solving the question quick because you have been very much used to have that particular question solved in 5 steps. So this is very important not to get addicted to this. How does IV approach breaks that shell of 5 steps? Explain the questions to the axiom, direct set up the equations, a general calculation, answers. Explanation is one, and then the setting up equations is one. So this is the first IV approach that we can talk about. Use the letters representing actual word. Like in original price, I use P for it. So always use, you know, letters representing actual words. Like for Tom, I can use T. For Jerry, I'll use J, rather than putting up X, Y, and Z always. So the most easiest one is use the initials of the word. So it always avoid the confusions and the mistakes to happen. Use hundreds or LCM. So always use point, never use points. For the percentage questions, use hundreds. For fractions, always try taking the LCM of the denominator. Always use the local ratio method. Like for conditional probability questions, you can always have the ratio method to solve. This is all available onto the website, so you can definitely check those. For this, the mixture questions, which are very tedious to solve at times, you should always use the concept of each together. So the salt water type of questions, the 5% of solution has a salt or something, which are frequently appearing on a PS questions, you should always use each together. So, IV approach was a name given to because using this, you can always get into your top Ivy League MBA school. So that's where we have given this an IV approach. It's a way to get into an Ivy League. Let's talk about this particular question. Now, this particular question, which will come onto the screen right now, will tell you how do we apply the IV approach. Out of the entire investment, John invested 1/3 in his stocks and invested 1/4 of the remaining in funds. If the final remaining investment is $6,000, then what was the initial investment? Now, suppose if I try solving it through the conventional approach, if I take the initial amount to be X, out of that X, 1/3 of it was invested in stocks. So first calculation from X, I have to get to 1/3 of X. And then 1/4 investment of the remaining. So I have to find the remaining first, X minus X/3, and then I have to find the 1/4 of it. And that X would still be unknown till the last equation that you have to solve. Rather than doing so, the IV approach tells us that the local ratio becomes the whole. That means attach the LCM of denominator to the question. Now the denominator here is 3 and 4. John has invested 1/3 and then 1/4 of the remaining in funds, and final remaining was $6,000. So if we go ahead, I'll just attach the LCM of 3 and 4 as 12, and I is the initial of investment. So suppose the initial amount of investment was 12I. You have explained the question, you have made the equation. Now it's very simple. Your investment in stocks would be 1/3 of 12I, which is 4I. So your remaining happens to be 12I minus 4I, which is 8I. You're left out with 8I funds right now. Out of which 1/4 was invested in funds. So 1/4 of 8I would be equals to 2I. So now we are left with 12I minus 4I minus 2I, which is equals to 6I. Now this 6I in the question says that the final remaining investment is $6,000. So 6I is equal to $6,000. So that 12I investment will become $12,000. D is the correct answer. That is it. So rather than falling for getting into x or something, the most important part is take the denominators part. We'll do this question very quickly on the screen. In a certain class, one third of the students took physics. It will be there on your screen in next 10 seconds, and it will also deal with the ratios, which says in a certain class, one third of the students took physics. Out of all students who took physics, so first of all, if we take x again, we are not following the conventional anymore. So we'll directly quickly start with the solution. I could see two fractions, one third and 3/4. I'll take the LCM to be 12. S is just because we're dealing with the students here. So I've got 12s other students. Now, one third of a student took physics. 1/3 times of 12s is 4s. Job done. So I've got 4s students who have taken physics. 3/4 of the students received an A out of those physics. So 3/4 of 4s is 3s. So 3s students have is received an A. So S students have not received an A. Out of all the students, what is the fraction of students who took physics and did not receive an A? That's S out of 12. My answer was 12s at the start. I got the answer just at the start of the question. So when you apply such kind of approach, you cannot take more than 20 seconds to solve the question. And if you could save this time, it would be easier for you to complete all the questions in the GMAT. 0.002% of 1200 is what percent of 300? Now, this particular question requires an axiom. Now, these axioms are very important to understand and very well explained onto our website. That, when we deal with the words like what fraction, what number, we can represent them by something or theta. Of is always a multiplication. Is, was, were is always equals to sign, and percentage is often 1/100. So this particular question needs an expression to be written, and we want to know, or we want to find, what percent of 300 is 0.02% of 1200. So now let's see here. 0.02% of 1200 is what percent of 300? Now we need to convert this into an expression. We'll simply do 0.02, change the percentage to 1/100. Of would be multiply 1200 is always placed here. Is been equals to what percent is theta. Percent is 1/100. Of is multiply, and 300 is written as it is. From here, it's very easy to solve. We just have to find the value of theta. 1/100 gets cancelled from both the ends. I get theta equals to 0.002 times 1200 divided by 300, which happens to be 0.008. Answer goes as B. So if you learn that particular way how to make an expression, your job is done. And this has been very well explained. There are a lot of axioms that will help you to convert the algebraic expression to one another, or percentage expression to one another. So IV approach saves your time on problem solving. You can definitely get to know the answer very quick. It increases your accuracy, and by the simplified steps, you can go to a high level questions early during the exams, and PS questions will appear in the earlier part of the exams. Always remember this. This is one of the key point. Get acclimated to the CAT. You need to be very aware and acquainted with this part. PS questions appear more frequently than the DS ones, so please make sure that you're very good with the PS solving. Connection to the variable approach. It's all about understanding the question, finding the variable, and converting the questions into the equation. So it's as same as DS. A variable approach, you comprehend the question, you understand the variables, and then you convert those. You gain the perspective on the overall structures of the GMAT math. 2 by 2 tables logic, local ratio, least common multiple, EET. This is all the basic IB approaches that is there very well explained along with questions and applications on our website. Now, I'll be going very much quick, but this is one of the most important part which you should see once this particular video is uploaded, and you could always refer to this. These are the topics on the left hand side, and there are the this has been segregated into three columns: questions that frequently appear, that appear occasionally, and that infrequently appear. So in integers you can know what appears frequently, what appear occasionally, and what are very much infrequent to appear. So this next three slides or four slides are pretty very well important. You can take the picture of it or make a note of this screenshot from this particular video once it gets uploaded there. So this would definitely help you a lot. Let's go ahead with the same. I'll be talking about math revolution. So we are global, and we were established in 2001 in South Korea. We have 190 plus countries site visitors today who has been taking services from like tutoring pack, and they have a lot of question bank and a private tutoring for math. There are members from 130 plus countries. We have over 41,000 students with 90 plus percent of students scoring 49 out of 51. We launched our website, the global website of mathrevolution.com, in October 2015. And our main goal is just to make sure that your pointer scores are more than 45, and this is wherein we have come up with these two approaches, which is variable for DS and IV for PS, so that you can score 50 and 51 into your real GMAT test. And when you start hitting your mock scores continuously, then it is where you start gaining the confidence to have it. Founder of world's first new approach method. So I would like to thank to the person whose mind is a mastermind, to be honest. So he's the one who has solved more than 100,000 questions, attempted on GMAT real test in 27 times, have scored maximum number of perfect score. Max Lee, he's a founder and CEO of Math Revolution. So all credit goes to him for bringing in world's first variable approach. And when we talk about the characteristics of Math Revolution, these are the four basic pillars that we talk about. It's uniqueness, because this IV approach and world's first variable approach is unique. It's irrelevant to any current math skill, so you can pick it from anywhere to learn, to master, and to perform. The quickness is when you have less amount of time, you feel like skipping, you feel like not attempting a question. This will save you. You'll mark most likely answer to be get to an accuracy. Having said that, I'm very much you know impressed, and I definitely thank everyone who has attended this webinar today. And thank you so much for your patience. This particular video should have more views, because you would definitely come back to this, so that you would have all the points, and all those particular slides which are important can be taken care of. You can often connect to us through info@mathrevolution.com. You can directly schedule a call directly with me, so that we could talk about your math skills, your preparations, and everything, and the questions you can often write us back to. With the same word, I would say stay blessed, and thank you so much for your support. And this is the last two things which I want to talk. How is it possible that you could score a 50-51? So we don't doubt about that. A few students can talk about it. Few students with a conventional approach can also score 50-51, but those percentage are quite less. So in order to gain more percentages, variable approach and IB approach will bring in everything for you. Having said that, I would take a leave, and thank you so much for today's webinar. Have a great night and great time. Bye bye.